Good afternoon or morning for everybody, depending on where you're at. I'm Robbie with Pure IT, and I have two guests with me a bit today. And we're going to talk a little bit about business CUSO lending, some technology solutions, the cloud, and kind of a handful of topics. Again, I'm Robbie with Pure IT. I'm our VP of Strategic Partnerships. That's what the business card says, but in real life, I dabble with all things information security, cloud concepts for credit unions and CUSOs around the nation. Bill, I might turn it over to you first for a quick intro and then move it to Mark.
That sounds good. I'm Bill Kurtz. I'm the CEO of Community Business Lenders. We are a business lending CUSO based in Des Moines, Iowa.
And I'm Mark Cox. I'm the CEO of Innovative Business Solutions. We are also a business lending CUSO located in Columbia, South Carolina, serving states in the Southeast U.S.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. Mark, I might pick on you just because you went last year for me. But why don't you tell everybody, educate me on what a business lending CUSO does? What's kind of your guys' claim to fame and secret sauce?
So we provide total back office support for credit unions that make commercial loans. Doesn't matter if they've got a lender in their shop or not. We've got programs that we have lenders that we can generate loan production and have credit unions come in and share that, which is a little bit similar to Bill's model. But our primary focus is on the back office support. If a credit union's loan officer gets a loan request, they send all of the information to us. We do the financial analysis, create the credit memo, send that to the credit union for loan approval. Once that approval is obtained, we manage the appraisal and environmental assessment process. We generate the loan docs for closing. And then once the loan is closed, we service the loan portfolio for the credit union, providing them with daily and monthly reports. We also do consulting work on participation arrangement sales, consulting work on helping a credit union start a commercial lending program, which is where I spend a lot of my time now, and what I'm focused on with growing the company.
Excellent. All right. Thanks, Mark. Bill, how about you guys? What maybe some similarities, but some differences between CBL and IBS?
Yeah, we do most of what Mark just described as well. We are owned by 40 credit unions in the state of Iowa, and our territory that we cover is basically Iowa and a little bit into our surrounding states. So Illinois, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Missouri. But by and large, we are our own self-contained private commercial lender. So we originate 99.9% of the loans that we do. So we have commercial loan officers with many years of experience on our team, and they originate loans throughout the state. We then underwrite those, run them through a loan committee for approval, and then we participate out up to 95% of those loans to our credit union owners. And then we are the lender of record, so we handle everything from start to finish with all of these loans.
Sweet. What's maybe like a small loan and a big loan for you guys, and what's the most unique business loan you guys have done?
Well, I would say that on the small side of things, we try to stay north of 500,000 for the loans that we originate. Now, bear in mind, we originated all of our own stuff for the most part. On the high side, we closed a loan here 6 months ago that was $30 million.
Okay.
So we can do any size of loan almost. It really depends on how many participants we can gather together to fund that loan, because we do have the people on staff here that are experienced enough to handle very large, complex credit facilities.
Gotcha. And is that typically like real estate?
It is. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, all of our loans for the most part are commercial real estate, typically income generating properties. So we don't do much in the way of speculative land development or speculative homes and that sort of thing. We do virtually none of that. It's almost all income producing properties of a variety of different asset classes.
Okay, cool. Mark, how about you guys? Small, large, and what's a typical loan look like for you guys?
So we serve 14 credit unions right now, and the majority of them have loan officers in their shops, and they typically are underwriting the smaller loans, say up to $100,000. And then anything over that comes to us for underwriting and handling through the rest of the process. Largest loan closed to date is 25 million. And thankfully we were able to sell participations in that immediately after the liquidity situation hit in fourth quarter. Created some stress for a little bit, but we were able to get that done and get it sold out. So it's kind of our ballpark. Our two loan officers that we use for our shared lender program are typically producing loans in the 10 to 20, $25 million range right now.
Okay. Gotcha. And I know we're going to talk about tech here eventually too, but you nailed a big topic for many credit unions, community banks, and obviously lending CUSOs, the liquidity side. What, everybody's familiar with the interest rate risks, but what have you guys seen transpire in the last, 3 to 9 months from a liquidity perspective, good and bad?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, we had several large loans that were getting ready to close and participations to be sold during the fourth quarter. And we ran into the situation twofold. One, loans had been underwritten in July and August, but were moving through the process of appraisals and everything else. And those loans had been underwritten at rates that were current at that time, which typically were around 5.5 or below. Then as we got ready to close the loan in October, November, and December, rates had risen so sharply and so fast that by the time we went to the market to sell participations, we were getting a lot of closed doors because of the rate.
Gotcha.
We went back to the lenders and to the borrowers in every case and saying, look, we've got to raise the rate, which means in order to maintain the debt coverage ratio that we want on this property, we're going to have to lower the loan amount. And in every case, the borrower came back and said, that's fine. I have the liquidity to do that.
Okay.
And what I thought was interesting is that although the financial institutions were having a liquidity issue because deposits had run out of them, the borrowers had liquidity. They had just moved it somewhere else to take advantage of the higher rates.
Mm-hmm.
So even though we were coming back and saying, okay, number one, I got to charge you a higher rate than what we said we were going to do 90 days ago, but you've also got to take a lower loan amount and inject more equity in the project. And we did not lose a deal because of any of those situations. And I thought that was pretty interesting. I was concerned that we were going to see everything just kind of shut down.
Especially deals of that size, having to go back to a borrower and say, hey, we need $1 million of equity, or we're taking you from 25 million to 22 million. Those can be project changing numbers for somebody.
Right.
Well, switching gears a tiny bit, Bill, here. One thing I wanted to kind of talk with you guys both about on the tech side is you guys both had some pretty similar things in your kind of previous technology before you did some work with Pure IT and kind of started adopting some cloud technologies. So maybe I'll pick on you first, Bill. Why don't you talk a little bit about the stuff that kept you up at night in the past, or some of the challenges maybe you guys were presented with
Sure.
with kind of your traditional IT setup?
So I joined the company in 2017, and most of my career had been spent in the large super regional banks as well as some larger community banks. And when I got here, I realized that our company had added technology when they felt they needed to add something. So they felt a pain point and they would go out and find something to try to address that pain point. But they weren't ever purchased with the idea of making them work together necessarily. They just solved that one particular issue. And so I first met Pure IT at a CUSO event in Los Angeles and happened to sit next to Jack Smith, the CEO, at a lunch there. And we struck up a conversation, and we engaged Pure IT in 2018 to come in and do an assessment of what we currently have, as well as possibly make some recommendations as what we could do based on what we told them that we envisioned ourselves going to.
Mm-hmm.
And I envisioned our company being predominantly cloud-based, allows us to work from anywhere in the world, very highly secured, kind of a less is more approach, I guess you might say. We at that time had an on-premises server that had, I believe, 10 virtual servers within it. And we would run out of storage space, for instance, with our Microsoft documents. And from time to time, we'd have to go in and do a purge of documents so we could free up more space, which seems unbelievable in this day
Asinine
and
to say
age.
out
Yeah,
loud now.
in this day and age. And so we had moved our managed service business from a large regional accounting firm to a local firm here. And we didn't have a very positive experience with that. And so it just happened that someone from Pure IT reached out to me just to check on us. And I said, hey, I'd like to visit with you about just taking over all of our IT stuff. And so I think that was in 2019. And Robbie was instrumental in that, as well as Steve Coyme and a variety of other folks. And we explained to them that, we wanted to go cloud-based to the fullest extent possible. And our current provider at that time told us it's not possible to do what you want, and they wanted to sell us a big new server, and it was a huge amount of money. And Robbie assured us, yeah, we can do all of that stuff through Microsoft. And so Robbie was able to architect a great solution for us to accomplish what we were looking for. As a matter of fact, we actually went live with Pure IT in February of 2020. And within, I think, a couple weeks, we were all working remotely from home as a result of the pandemic. So that's just a little background as far as how we got from where we were to where we are now with Pure IT.
Perfect. Thanks, Bill. Mark, you guys had some obviously very similar stuff. In Bill's case, they had a lot of their servers and on-premise stuff actually in their office. You guys were just a tiny bit different. You actually had an environment set up in a private co-location facility.
Yes.
A lot of the same stuff you guys, Bill just spoke on, you guys went through too. So maybe how was that transition for staff? And I'm looking for like the bloody, gory details here, not the polished up, nice stuff. What was really challenging for you guys or your staff? What stuff did you learn in that process?
Well, I want to backtrack a little bit. First off, I want to say that Bill and I come from similar backgrounds. Our CUSOs, I think, are close in size. Our business models are similar. And before joining Pure IT, we had been with an IT support group since the company was formed in 2008. And in 2019, maybe a little bit before that, was really starting to get concerned with the quality of the service that we were getting. I'm not an IT person. I don't have an IT person on my staff. And so we really do rely on our IT vendor to be our IT department and to be proactive on things that we need to be thinking about and doing in order to not just be where the credit unions want us to be or the regulators might want us to be, but be ahead of the curve. And we were running into issues with our current provider at that time with even just keeping things updated. We were constantly having to add memory to our physical servers. We were constantly having problems with getting kicked off the servers because we didn't have the memory. And as I was looking to make a change, I reached out to several of our credit union owners asking for some recommendations, and Pure IT was a recommendation from one of those owners. And when I heard the Pure IT name, I remembered Bill saying that he had converted a couple of years ago. And so I called Bill and we talked through that. And Robbie, if I recall, the first conversation you and I had several years ago was, I want what Bill has.
Sounds vaguely familiar, yes.
So, we moved off of the physical servers that were in a third-party facility. We were able to reduce a lot of expenses associated with that. We moved off of the Digium phone system to the Teams network, to where we're not only communicating internally via Teams, but we're now using Teams for all of our outgoing and incoming phone calls and for group meetings as we hold those. From a bloodbath standpoint, I don't think we really had one. I think the escalation to being in an environment that works was the biggest thing to come out of this. And so obviously for us, it wasn't a painful event. It was a refreshing, recuperating event for us because we had really gone through some problems with our prior IT vendor. The setup that we have now is with virtual servers. All of our software platforms that we use either for underwriting or for servicing our loan docs are all on virtual servers now. We've had no issues with any of that at all. Um, I guess if there was some things to get accustomed to, it was probably with me. I'm the old dog trying to learn new tricks.
I don't
Um,
know. You did pretty good for yourself, Mark.
well, everybody here is half my age, and it typically shows pretty quickly. But y'all have been extremely helpful helping me get acclimated to everything. Um, but the biggest thing is the support that we're having. We're now having quarterly updates with Pure IT on what's going on with our service. One of the conversations that we had yesterday was around upcoming security issues. And I think security is going to be one of the primary conversations during those quarterly reviews going forward, so that we can make sure that we're staying up front and ahead of the curve when it comes to security issues.
Yeah. Well, Bill, if I picked on you again, what advice would you give to a fellow CUSO or a credit union looking to make a change like this, trying to get into a very kind of a secure first cloud environment where you're not reliant on some of your on-prem infrastructure? What learning lessons or tidbits of wisdom would you share?
Well, I would say, first of all, I preach the gospel of pure IT consistently. People probably get tired of me hearing about it, but when you find something that you think is beneficial, then you want to share that news. And so I look at some of our credit unions, for instance. I won't speak to the CUSOs because I just don't know exactly how they're all structured.
Sure.
But a lot of our credit unions are very traditional in the sense that they have their own IT staff. And it's not just one or two people, it can be a dozen people. And I wonder in this day and age, what do those folks do, on a day to day basis? Because by going to the cloud, we've essentially offloaded most of our security risk to Microsoft or to Amazon Web Services or Salesforce to handle all of our servers. And, it's all seamless for us. So I'm a big believer in, if you don't have the talent or it's very hard to find that talent, outsource it to somebody that does.
Mhm.
And so we don't need a fully dedicated IT department. And so Pure IT works perfect for us because it's on an as needed basis, and we can get whatever support we need whenever we need it.
Gotcha. Perfect. Mark, how about you? From your perspective and the changes your team went through, what type of pearls of wisdom would you drop for another credit union or CUSO?
Well, I would echo what Bill says. Um, the I think the best thing I did was reach out to my credit unions that had on-site IT departments, and spend a lot of time talking with those folks, probably in 3 or 4 of our credit unions, about what we were currently using, and what they were using and what their recommendation was, so that I actually had a pretty good idea of, when I came to you, I wasn't talking as if I was completely ignorant, just halfway there. So I would say, one, reach out to people and find out what they're doing and how they're doing it. From a CUSO perspective, Bill and I are going to be huge advocates of Pure IT for quite a while. And I would just say that if you're a CUSO looking to make a change in your IT services, call Bill or me, and we can get into a lot more detail on issues that we were having prior to, and how things are running since we made that conversion. But like Bill said, we don't have a staff, and y'all are our IT staff now. We're looking to you to keep us in line and keep us ahead of the security risks and the threats that are out there, that we need to make sure that we're addressing before they ever happen.
Perfect.
I think one of the things that's important is that, Pure IT, you guys have a nationwide reach. And a lot of your
Mhm.
folks, like Robbie, you had, Fortune 500 experience in the past. If you hire somebody local, pretty much what they know is local.
What you get.
So they might not be abreast of everything going on in the world like the folks there at Pure IT are. And so we've actually outsourced our virtual CISO, our Chief Information Security Officer, to Pure IT now. And so they're working with us on a comprehensive review of all the systems that we built and doing intrusion testing, both internal and external, and that sort of things. And we're even adding additional enhancements as we speak right now to further secure our environment. But I just think that, having that breadth of expertise on a nationwide basis is invaluable to our company.
Gotcha. Well, that's awesome. Thank you guys for all the Q&A there. Did you guys do March Madness? Did your brackets turn out okay, or did they get totally blown?
Well, I will tell you this: on the men's side, the Hawkeyes bowed out early, and so I just didn't care anymore. But on the women's side, hey, it was nice to see the Hawkeye ladies make it to the
Yep.
final. So
That's true.
And Bill, I meant to reach out and offer congratulations because they beat my Gamecocks.
oh yes, that's right. That's right. That was a fantastic game.
Yeah, it was.
They did pretty good. It was pretty rewarding. I have never watched women's NCAA Final Four before, and our whole family watched all of the Final Four games. They were a phenomenal set of games this year.
Absolutely.
I had high hopes for Pac-12. I rarely root for UCLA, but that kind of fell apart on me this year. So anyway, well, thanks again for your time, guys. We greatly appreciate it. And yeah, stay tuned until next time.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robbie.